Good morning, grade fives, and welcome to another English lesson with me, Miss Kun. I hope that you're doing well and you are having such a fantastic day. Remember that this lesson is brought to you by WorksheetCloud, and if you've got any questions, email them to grade5@worksheetcloud.com. All right, I have to just forewarn you that my parrot, and for those of you that know me, I've got an African grey, and for some reason he is chirping and talking away in the background. So if you hear a parrot like that, it's from me. And that is Pebbles. He's just saying hello. All right. Before we carry on with our fantastic book, Kensuke's Kingdom by Michael Morpurgo, I am going to tell you all a joke. You should all know my famous jokes. Okay, are you ready? Right. So, why are robots never afraid? Why are robots never afraid? Why are robots never afraid? Well, because they've got nerves of steel. Yes, laugh. I know you want to laugh. Or you can laugh at me. That's okay too. All right. Okay, so we are entering into the very final chapter of Kensuke's Kingdom. Now, this chapter is quite long, so I'm breaking it up into two parts. This is going to be part 1 of chapter 10 of Kensuke's Kingdom. Okay, it is called Killer Men Come. Right, have a look at the picture. Wonder what is going to happen. Right, are you ready? Shortly after this, the rains came and forced us to shelter for days on end inside the cave house. The tracks became torrents. The forest became a swamp. I longed for the howl of the gibbons instead of the roar of the rain on the trees outside. It did not rain in fits and starts as it did at home, but constantly, incessantly. I worried over our beacon that was becoming more saturated now with every passing day. Would it ever dry out? Would this rain ever stop? But Kensuke was stoical about it all. It stop when it stop, Mikasan, he told me. You cannot make rain stop by wanting it to stop. Besides, rain very good thing. Keep fruit growing. Keep stream flowing. Keep monkeys alive. You also, me also. I did make a dash up to the hilltop each morning with the binoculars, but I don't know why I bothered. Sometimes it was raining so hard I could hardly see the sea at all. Occasionally we sailed out into the forest, sallied out into the forest to gather enough fruit to keep us going. There were berries growing in abundance now, when Kensuke insisted on gathering. He didn't seem to mind getting soaked to the skin as much as I did. We ate some, but most of it turned into vinegar. The rest he bottled in honey and water. For rainy day, yes, he laughed. He loved experimenting with the new expressions he had picked up. We ate a lot of smoked fish. He always seemed to have enough in reserve. It made me very thirsty, but I never tired of it. I remember the rainy season more for the painting we did than for anything else. We painted together for hours on end, until the octopus ink ran out. These days, Kensuke was painting more from his memory. His house in Nagasaki, and several portraits of Kimi and Mikaya standing together, always under the cherry tree. The faces, I noticed, he always left very indistinct. He once explained this to me. He was more and more fluent now in his English. I remember who they are, he said. I remember where they are. I can hear them in my head, but I cannot see them. I spent days perfecting my first attempt at an orangutan. It was Tomodachi. She would often crouch soulful and dripping at the cave mouth, almost as if she was posing for me. So I took full advantage. Kensuke was ecstatic in his delight at my painting and lavish in his praise. One day, Mikasan, you will be fine painter, like Hokusai. Maybe. That was the first shell painting of mine he kept and stored away in his chest. I felt so proud. After that, he insisted on keeping many of my shell paintings. He would often take them out of the chest and study them carefully, showing me where I might improve, but always generously. Under his watchful eye, in the glow of his encouragement, every picture I painted seemed more accomplished, more how I wanted it to be. Then one morning, the gibbons were howling again, and the rains had stopped. We went fishing in the shallows, out at sea too, and had very soon replenished our stores of smoked fish and octopus ink. We played football again, and all the while the beacon on the hilltop was drying out. Wherever we went now, we took the binoculars with us, just in case. We very nearly lost them once when Kikambo, Tomodachi's errant son, always the cheekiest, most playful of all the young orangutans, stole them and ran off into the forest. When we caught up with him, he didn't want to surrender them at all. In the end, Kensuke had to bribe him, a red banana for a pair of binoculars. But as time passed, we were beginning to live as if we were going to be staying on the island forever, and that began to trouble me deeply. Kensuke made repairs to his outrigger. He made more vinegar, he collected herbs and dried them in the sun, and he seemed less and less interested in looking for a ship. He seemed to have forgotten all about it. He sensed my restlessness. He was working on the boat one day, and, ever hopeful, I was scanning the sea through the binoculars. "It is easier when you are old like me, Mikasan," he said. "What is?" I asked. "Waiting," he said. "One day a ship will come, Mikasan. Maybe soon, maybe not so soon, but it will come. Life must not be spent always hoping, always waiting. Life is for living." I knew he was right, of course, but only when I was lost and absorbed in my painting was I truly able to obliterate all thoughts of rescue, all thoughts of my mother and father. I woke one morning and Stella was barking outside the cave house. I got up and went out after her. At first, she was nowhere to be seen. When I did find her, she was high up on the hill, half growling, half barking, and her hackles were up. I soon saw why. A junk, a small junk, far out to sea. I scrambled down the hill and met Kensuke coming out of the cave house, buckling his belt. "There's a boat!" I cried. "The fire! Let's light the fire!" "First I look," said Kensuke, and despite all of my protestations, he went back into the cave house for his binoculars. I raced up the hill again. The junk was close enough to shore. They would be bound to see the smoke. I was sure of it. Kensuke was making his way up towards me infuriatingly slow. He seemed to be in no hurry at all. He studied the boat carefully now through his binoculars, taking his time about it. "We've got to light the fire," I said. "We've got to." Kensuke caught me suddenly by the arm. "It is the same boat, Mikasan. Killer men come. They kill the gibbons and steal away the babies. They come back again, I am very sure. I do not forget the boat. I never forget. They very wicked people. We must go quick. We must find all orangutans. We must bring them into the cave. They be safe there." It did not take him long to gather them in. As we walked into the forest, Kensuke simply began to sing. They materialized out of nowhere, in twos, in threes, until we had 15 of them. 4 were still missing. We went deeper and deeper into the forest to find them, Kensuke singing all the while. Then 3 more came crashing through the trees, Tomodachi amongst them. Only one was still missing, Kikanbo. Standing there in the clearing in the forest, surrounded by the orangutans, Kensuke sang for Kikambo again and again, but he did not come. Then we heard a motor start up, somewhere out at sea, an outboard motor. Kensuke sang out again, louder now, more urgently. We listened for Kikambo. We looked for him. We called for him. We cannot wait any longer, said Kensuke at last. I go in front, Mikison, you behind. Bring last ones with you, quick now. And off he went, up the track, leading one of the orangutans by the hand, and still singing. As we followed, I remember thinking that this was just like the Pied Piper leading the children away into a cave in the mountainside. I had my work cut out at the back. Some of the younger orangutans were far more interested in playing hide and seek than following. In the end, I had to scoop up 2 of them and carry them, one in the crook of each arm. They were a great deal heavier than they looked. I kept glancing back over my shoulder for Kikambo and calling for him, but he did not come. The outboard motor died. I heard voices, loud voices, men's voices, laughter. I was running now, the orangutans clinging around my neck. The forest hooted and howled an alarm all around me. As I reached the cave, I heard the first shots ring out. Every bird, every bat in the forest lifted off so that the screeching sky was black with them. We gathered the orangutans together at the back of the cave and huddled there in the darkness with them as the shooting went on and on. All of them. Tomodachi was the first agitated, but they all needed constant comfort and reassurance from Kensuke. All through this dreadful nightmare, Kensuke sang to them softly. And I'm going to pause there. Right. So, this is the very last chapter of the book. And so this is part 1. In the next video, I am going to read part 2. Right. So, grade 5s, how are we feeling about what is happening? What is going to happen next? There are these hunters that are now there in the forest. We hear voices, we hear the sound of guns. What is going to happen next? Do you think Kensuke and Michael and the orangutans make it to the cave? What about that missing orangutan? What is his name again? Kikambo. Kikambo. Where is Kikambo? What's going to happen to him? What's going to happen? Is Michael ever going to make it home? Is a ship ever going to pass, a proper legitimate ship that is filled with kind, warm-hearted people that also just want to help them back home? What is going to happen? Do you think Kensuke is going to go back to Japan? Will Michael ever be reunited with his parents again? There's so many questions that we could ask with what is going to happen. And I have to tell you that the rest of the chapter, so part 2 of chapter 10, there is literally, I think, possibly 12 pages left. So in these next 12 pages, I think we're going to get a lot of our questions that are going to be answered. So you can see the excitement in my voice and in my face. I am very excited to see what's going to happen. And I hope that you are too, because I have absolutely loved reading this book with you. And I hope that you've enjoyed listening to me reading. And I'm sure, yep, Pebbles agrees. You can hear Pebbles in the background. So, boys and girls, you are just going to have to join me next time for the rest of chapter 10, which is the very final part of this awesome book. And so I hope to see you all next time. From me, Miss Kun, remember, Hakuna Matata, and be kind to one another. Bye.